The World Environment Day is celebrated every year on June 5. In Nigeria is also not left out among the nations that celebrate this day every year. The initiative is a United Nations principal vehicle for encouraging awareness and action for the protection of the environment. To mark the celebration of this year's World Environmental Day on the 5th of June, a call has been made for accelerated action to tackle climate change impacts that are disproportionately affecting developing countries such as Nigeria, even though they account for the lowest proportion of causal factors. Let's get more perspective on this issue on the World Environmental Day, and we have been joined in the studio by an environmentalist, Dr. Dahir Muhammad Hashim. Thank you for being with us this morning.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Aziz.
Yes. Can you shed us some light about the significance of this day, of the World Environmental Day, that is June 5 of every year?
Well, this is a day that was initiated in 1974, and then solely it was initiated in order to create awareness and then sensitize the world about the importance of environment in our daily life and the ecosystem in general. And the sole purpose of it is to, enlighten the people about the role of an enabling environment within our life. And this year's World Environmental Day is going to hold in Sweden with the slogan, Only One Earth. And what it means is that it's a global challenge and a responsibility for all of us to be able to come up with ways on how to preserve our environment, because it's something that has to be done now. And failure to do it, it's like we're putting the future of the next generation at stake.
Okay, now the theme, Only One Earth, actually calls for collective transformative action on a global scale to celebrate, protect, and restore our planet. But, what are some of the biggest challenges that we face locally in Nigeria and also on a global scale?
Well, in Nigeria, we have this challenge of rapid population expansion and decrease in urban land mass, which result to the issue of greenhouse gases. In Kano, for example, there has been a report about the excessive heat, and that is courtesy of the harmful gases within the environment. The human is meant to breathe out carbon dioxide and take in oxygen. So that carbon dioxide is having this binding effect. When there is too much of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, for example, it tends to bind with heat and kind of cause that greenhouse effect. So there is a need for us to be able to come up with ways that we can get rid of that carbon dioxide. And one of the key ways, according to experts, is through tree planting. Okay. Up to this time, there has not been any machine invented that help us get rid of carbon and other harmful gases more than trees. So there is the need for us to engage ourselves into massive planting. And then another issue is that we have been cutting down trees randomly, exposing our lands to deforestation, to erosions, and flooding as well. So there is a need for us to sensitize the farmers and then to considering what they do through the agroforestry to make them understand the impact, of their actions.
Okay, so aside tree planting, are there other measures that, one can actually take? Because when you look at, that's like the first step that especially in Nigeria, that, a lot of states actually take to, counter the effect of climate change. But aside tree planting, what other measures can be taken?
Well, there are so many other measures, and then the top ones are how to decrease that carbon emissions, maybe through the use of vehicles and machines and all of that. So it all begins with the sensitization and awareness, right from our lifestyle, the way we build houses and use like 10 rooms, all of them containing furniture. It's like we're promoting the industries, making them to cut down trees and make furniture for our use. A single person using 5 or 10 cars in his home, you know, like each one it's contributing to the carbon emissions. So it all begin with the
lifestyle changes,
of the awareness. So that's why we give more emphasis on creating awareness and then sensitizing the communities on what is at stake.
You are particularly engaged in this tree planting campaign. How is the experience, you know, knowing how perhaps our society is to things like this? What is your experience regarding campaigning for tree planting as a way of improving the environment?
Well, it's quite challenging, but alhamdulillah, the result has been up to, you know, it has been satisfactory. Because you find yourself in the midst of people that start questioning, why are you even planting trees? So before you even answer them, they'll be like, it's better you give them money or you give them food. You know, I have this experience at Tidinyole in Kano. You know, one of the community members was asking me that instead of planting tree, I should come and establish drainage for them. But I think what the people fail to understand is that the task to building a better society is a cumulative effort. You know, like I just have to figure out what am I going to do, what is going to be my contribution, and you have that responsibility to yourself to figure out what you can do as well. So they might literally need that gutters, but I might not be the one to do it. And probably we should all be asking ourselves that what are we doing for the country before even asking the leaders, or let me say the politician per se, that what are they doing from their own part. We shouldn't just be complainers. And what give me this, let me say, this optimism, it's going to another country to study. I have seen how the other people do their own things. Their way of life is quite different from ours. They always try to, in fact, they always try to move their own community forward. And I think as Nigerians, we have to consider that this is a responsibility upon us as well.
Okay, now just for the sake of the viewers, I know there's been a lot of confusion about climate change and global warming. Is it the same thing or is it different? And can you tell us what the difference is, if it is?
Well, I think that has always been the case. So global warming is just one of the, you know, negative side of climate change. And the science in climate change is so deep that people find it so hard to understand. But let's try and take it, you know, this way. You know, after the Industrial Revolution in 1950, there has been concern that the earth has been becoming warmer. You know, like there is an increase in the temperature by 1 degree. And then that's why during the summit in France, COP25, I mean, so they said, what are we going to do in order to ensure that, you know, this increase in temperature has been under control? Because report has it that from 1950, the world has tripled its population. And then we're talking about gases that contribute to this, you know, excessive heat. So when the populations triple, you need ways that you can get rid of the gases we all produce. If to say 3 of us can produce 1 ton of CO2, for example, so when our population become 9, that means we'll produce 3. So we need more trees. And then sadly is that the trees are not even enough. So like we keep cutting down trees to make room for new places. Like we're cutting down trees to build estate, we're cutting down trees to build roads, and then we are not even replacing them. We're cutting down trees to establish new farmlands. So like we have to do something, and then we're using all this you know, fuel, like contributing also to harmful gases. So we said we have to create like zero emissions, you know, like to make it in the sense that the amount of CO2 we are producing, it's equal to the amount of CO2 we are getting rid of. And that can only be achieved through tree planting. So countries were taxed to set ambitious targets. But sadly, I think majority of the countries were not doing the expected things. Nigeria, for example, I know there has been inadequate in the, you know, in the sensitization and then the enlightenment and even engaging stakeholders to make sure that this our own token has been, you know, chipped in. So the greenhouse effect is when you have this too much of CO2 plus other harmful oxides like methane.
Okay.
We produce methane from processing meat, and then from even when you ingest beef, you breathe out CH4.
Wow.
Yeah. In
Well, we
addition
are
to
going
that
a bit
CO2.
technical. Perhaps can we maybe move into more specific, especially more tangible things? In Nigeria, as you said, we are cutting down a lot of trees. What is the rate of or the ratio of our trees felling vis-a-vis tree planting? Are we meeting up to the targets of re-establishing the forest that we are cutting down?
Well, we always have issues with data. When it comes to data collection, we don't have the actual fact on the ground. But literally, you can say, people planting trees or even the government are not doing enough, considering the cutting down. When you go to some rural areas, we keep down cutting trees for fuel wood. And we have known that, according to report, we have it that in Kano, for example, 4 out of each 5 households, are using this fuel wood. And you can even ask yourself how many of them are even trying to replace the trees. So, and even people doing this, going into the business of fuel wood are not even replacing them. They only go into the forest, cut them down, and then come and sell. So there is need for them to, even if they are going to do it, we have to do it in a sustainable way to ensure the sustainable, consumption and then production as well. Because if we are not doing that, when there will be a time that you go in and then you won't even buy, you won't even find the trees there.
The trees to
I tried telling a local farmer there, but he told me this in Hausa that daji baya karewa, meaning that it will never finish. So you see, that is his own psyche. So there is need for the government to ensure laws. The laws are there, but there has not been enforcement. So there is a need for us to have that and to even have some stakeholders on board so that we can be able to take note of the trees we are cutting down and the ones that we are planting. According to UN, they said each 4 person needs 1 tree for normal respiration pattern. So we need to say, okay, how many are we, and then how many trees do we have?
Okay, now I'm really sorry, but we have to go back. You're talking about meat consumption, because I've actually heard a lot about, the meat consumption and how it affects the environment, which is, a lot of people, don't really know about. Can you just briefly explain that part to us?
Well, it's right from the processing of the meat to even consumption. So from the processing, the meat industries, and then the consumption as well, there are times that mainly you are supposed to breathe out CO2, but there are times that you breathe something more than that.
So what you eat matters as well.
What you eat matters. So the science is dense, and there are instances that when you take the listener, they might not be able to pick
So
it.
for the environment, what is the best eating habit? What should be best consumed by humans so that the environment remains clean?
Well, it's to try and eat naturally, the vegetables, the fruits, and then you might not say you're not going to eat meat, but you need that, but not at this increasing rate.
But if you talk about eating vegetables, isn't that going to be detrimental to the environment as well?
No, once you are ensuring the sustainability, then it's all that you need.
Okay, so lastly, before we go, how is this, there is this cry by local farmers about reduction in arable land. How is maybe this maybe environmental malpractices affecting this reduction in good arable lands?
You see, I can tell you that the farmers contribute more to this, because you can find a person buying 100 hectares of land containing trees. He will go straight off and cut them and cut all the trees, then plant some, maybe whatever he wants to plant, and then after harvest, the land will be left like that. So you have exposed it to deforestation. You have exposed that land to decreased productivity, because the leaves of the trees contribute to the nutrients of the soil. And then there is this report that by 2030, the metropolis will be a home to more than 70% of the world population. In Kano, for example, today more than 60% of the population live and reside within the metropolis. So as they are living there, they start expanding. And the moment you're going to expand the metropolis, you kept clearing the you know, the bushes and then building houses, and then you're not even replacing them. So the emissions is there, and then you don't have any alternative. And that is why by the year 2020, we have this report of excessive heat where we lost so many people in Kano. And then we have diseases related to this excessive heat as well, the schizophrenia, the mental illnesses, dehydration, kidney problems, and all of that. So it's like, this is a necessity. This is something we must do. We have disease, environmental diseases, maybe those that have environmental causes. All these asthmas are triggered by, you know, poor environment, when you have low air quality, you know, and then the cooling effect as well. And these are things that the trees contribute. They are not just giving us fruit or shade. They are improving, they are helping us with so many other things.
Yeah, thank you very much, Dr. Hashim, and that's been really educative and very important contributions, and we wish you all the best, and we hope to have you again on the show.